A few months ago, I made a video ranking every Star Wars movie strictly off their LEGO set lineups, and you guys really enjoyed that video. I enjoyed making that video, so now I'm ranking every Star Wars TV show based off their LEGO set lineups. When I originally made that video, I always planned to do this video too, but it just took me a minute to get to it, so here I am 4 months later, and as you read in the title, for obvious reasons, I'm excluding the Clone Wars just because that'd be an easy first place. Anyways though, I have a total of 13 separate shows to get through, and starting off all the way to 13th spot, the one Star Wars show with the worst LEGO set lineup is obviously Young Jedi Adventures. I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it's a kid's show. I haven't watched it. I assume most of you guys haven't watched it either. And because it's a kid's show, the only 2 sets we've gotten from it are 4+ sets. So again, to me, this is kind of just a no-brainer to be at the back of the list. I mean, I don't care for these things at all. I know other YouTubers review them and stuff, but I just don't care about 4+ sets. So yeah, this is at the back of the list. Next up, we have a LEGO Original Series show that some of you guys probably forgot existed, that being the Freemaker Adventures. This came out back in 2016, and this is also another show I never watched. I watched the crap out of the Yoda Chronicles, but I never watched this as a kid, and I'm pretty sure most other people didn't watch it either, because the sets that came from this show just weren't very popular at all. I mean, they're really just kind of throwaway, unrecognizable sets like the Star Scavenger, although I do have to say there were 2 sets that came from this show that actually were pretty cool. The first one being the Bounty Hunter Battle Pack, and that's literally just because we got all these iconic bounty hunters in one cheap set, and it was awesome. I mean, obviously, I'm not a big fan of named characters in battle packs, but when it's like this, it kind of works. And then the other set being the Eclipse Starfighter, we got an updated version of Dengar in that set, but also the ship itself is pretty cool. It's very sleek looking and unique. It also has a pretty cool function with the wings being able to like fold open and fold close. So again, those 2 sets are pretty cool, especially the Bounty Hunter Battle Pack, but the rest just kind of got forgotten about for obvious reasons. They're not very recognizable at all, and I don't think many people cared about them back then, and people certainly don't care about them today in 2025. Next up, I have another LEGO Original Series show that I just mentioned, that being the Yoda Chronicles. And like I said, as a kid, I liked this show a lot. I'm sure a lot of you guys like this show too, but the 2 sets that came from it, I don't think were the greatest. I know they do have a bit of a cult following, and there's a lot of people that really like these 2 sets, and I think the Stealth Starfighter is decent because it's just a black E-Wing, so it looks cool, and there's also the Bounty Hunter minifigure, which I think is cool. But on the other hand, the Jedi Scout Fighter has just always been kind of ugly to me. I mean, I've just never thought this set looks good. The Ithorian Jedi is pretty cool, but that's really all it has going for it. Oh, actually, I forgot about the Holocron Chamber set. If none of you guys have seen this before, it's an exclusive set that was given away in New York at the premiere of the show, so because of that, it's super rare. I mean, this thing goes for like $5,000. So actually, this is a cool set, not only because it's rare, but just because it's the Holocron Chamber and it looks cool. It's a pretty intriguing build. But the 2 main sets that came from this show, I've just always thought to be kind of underwhelming. Now making her way into the top 10 at the number 10 spot is a show that LEGO really dropped the ball on. I mean, this show had potential for a lot of great sets, and LEGO really wasted it, and that's The Bad Batch. There were 3 seasons of this show, and LEGO only made 2 sets from it. Those 2 sets obviously being the Bad Batch Shuttle and the Justifier. Now, the Shuttle actually was a very popular set. I think for the most part, a lot of people like this thing. Yes, it's not necessarily the right color, as it's blue when it should be more of a gray, but regardless, it was the popular set because it was the main character's ship and it had all the members of the Bad Batch. But the Justifier, on the other hand, was not the greatest set. I know at the time of its release, LEGO really wanted to make Cad Bane because he was in the Bad Batch, but this set just wasn't the greatest. I mean, it looks fine and it's a decent build. It's just super large and bland in my opinion, and was also kind of overpriced at the time. And like I mentioned earlier, LEGO really wasted the potential on this show by only making these 2 sets, because throughout those 3 seasons, we saw a lot of different ships and vehicles that a lot of people in the community really wanted LEGO to make. The most popular one probably being the Imperial Attack Shuttle. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone wanted that set with Commander Wolf and some commandos. There were also a few Imperial V-Wings in the show, if I remember correctly, and people wanted those as well, among a lot of other things they could have made. But no, unfortunately, we only ended up getting these 2 sets, and despite one being popular, they're both just kind of average. And it's really a bummer, because again, this show could have had a great lineup. Anyways though, up next to the number 9 spot, I have the only sequel show ever made, that being Resistance. And I never watched the show. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that good. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you have, let me know in the comments. But the 2 sets that came from it are pretty cool. Now, the Black Ace TIE Fighter doesn't have the most intriguing design in my opinion. I know a lot of other people like it, but I've never really cared for the design that much. However, I always love a unique TIE Fighter design, so I just kind of have some appreciation for it. It's also got that awesome figure with the skull printed on the TIE Pilot helmet. But the main set that came from this show is Major Von Reg's TIE Fighter. Yes, I know it's from a sequel era show that's not that great, that again, I personally didn't even watch, but you can't lie that this thing looks really awesome. It's clearly just a red TIE Interceptor, and I mean, TIE Interceptors are cool in their own, but if you make one red and black, it just looks even cooler. So again, the show is not the greatest, but the 2 sets sets we got from it are unique to say the least, and one of them is really awesome looking. Next up at the number 8 spot, I have the Book of Boba Fett. LEGO has made 4 sets from this show, 2 of those sets being microfighters, and then the other 2 being normal playsets, and I'm not gonna lie, the only reason it made it to the number 8 spot is just because it's being carried by the Mando Starfighter. As you guys know, that set is super popular. It was released in 2022 and has still not retired yet just because it's selling so much. And I mean, for good reason, it's fairly priced, it's a great build, it looks really good and very accurate. But Boba Fett's throne room, on the other hand, I've never really been the biggest fan of. The minifigure lineup is solid, however, the build isn't the greatest. I mean, there's nothing really inherently wrong with it. It looks fine. It's just not near as good as the old Jabba's Palace. And I've talked about this a lot, but it's just because of their design choice. They went with this sort of flat, elongated design, and it just doesn't resemble Jabba's Palace as good as the old one did. So because of that, I've just never really liked this set that much. So again, out of the 4 sets that came from this show, the Mando Starfighter has carried it to the number 8 spot, but I'm not putting it any higher. Anyways though, up next at the number 7 spot, I have a show that only has 1 set. It's a show that just recently came out, and most of you guys are probably not gonna agree with this placement, but it's Skeleton Crew. And the only set that came from this show is obviously 75374, the Onyx Cinder. And this is by no means the best or most popular set that released in 2024. However, I like this set a lot. I mean, the ship just has a very intriguing design in my opinion. It's got lots of detail on the outside and has a nice little interior space, and it has this awesome feature where the engines can rotate. And then of course the minifigure lineup is cool too. It's nothing crazy. I mean, it's just the main characters from the show. They don't look anything too special, but it's nice to get them. The real highlight of the set is literally just the ship. I think it's awesome. And despite this being the only set made from Skeleton Crew, I still think it's worthy of the 7th spot. Moving on to the number 6 spot, I have a show that some people would probably argue to be the worst Star Wars show made so far, but there was one really cool set that came from it that's carried it all the way to the number 6 spot, and that is Kenobi. We only got 2 sets from this show, one of them being really good and the other one being not so good, which I'll talk about that one first. When this set came out, it got an enormous amount of hate because essentially it's just a gray slab. There are actually quite a few play features mixed into it, but at first glance and especially on display, there's not much going on. It does have some cool figures though, especially with that Ned B loading droid, but other than that, it doesn't have much going for it. The Inquisitor transport scythe, on the other hand, is widely regarded to be one of the best sets that came out in 2022 though, and I mean, I think it's pretty easy to tell why. Just look at the thing, it looks pretty awesome. It's very reminiscent of Krennic's Imperial Shuttle, and it has a super aggressive design that I really like. I mean, say what you want about Kenobi, yes, it's one of the worst Star Wars shows ever made. I mean, it definitely had some moments like the end battle between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, but overall, it was not a great show. However, this set is awesome, and it really carried it all the way to the number 6 spot. Anyways though, not making our way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot, I have another LEGO original content show that had some sets that really took the community by storm last year in 2024, and that's of course Rebuild the Galaxy. So far, LEGO has only made 3 sets from this show, with a 4th one coming out later this year in August, and 1 out of those 3 sets is really bad, that being the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter mashup, whatever it was called. This set was just overpriced, and the TIE Fighter in it looks absolutely hideous, but the other 2 sets, being the Dark Falcon and Jedi Bob Starfighter, are why it made it to the top 5. When these released, I mean, they were instant fan favorites. Even before they were released, these things were hyped up like crazy. I mean, the Dark Falcon is literally a black and red Millennium Falcon, and it just looks really cool on its own, but also it has some awesome minifigures, fan favorite minifigures like Darth Jar Jar, Jedi Vader, as well as Darth Rey, a bunch of fan favorite Star Wars characters that are somehow in an official LEGO set now, all thanks to the producers of this show. And then of course you have Jedi Bob Starfighter, which includes Jedi Bob, one of the most legendary LEGO Star Wars minifigures of all time. I mean, even if the show necessarily wasn't that good, you really do gotta give props to the producers, because based off these sets and just what's in the story, they're clearly tapped in with the LEGO community, and they're clearly tapped in with the Star Wars community, hence why we literally have an official Darth Jar Jar and Jedi Vader minifigure, and then Jedi Bob Starfighter. It just shows that they really made this series with the community in mind, and I really like that. And these 2 sets specifically became instant fan favorites. Anyways though, moving on to the number 4 spot, I have what's arguably one of, if not the best Star Wars show made so far, that being Andor. This is my personal favorite Disney Star Wars show. I think it's absolutely amazing, and a lot of people agree with me on that, and the 3 sets we've gotten from it so far honestly reflect that. Now, the new U-Wing is definitely a bit questionable. Obviously, I'm not going to make my final judgment on this set until I get it in hand, but based off the product pictures and reviews people have already made, it's looking like it's not going to be the greatest set. However, Ambush on Ferrix that came out in 2022 is an amazing set, very underrated. It's a bit of a weird one-off ship, but it's a really well-built model and has some cool minifigures. And then you have K2SO that's coming out later this year in August, and it just looks absolutely amazing. You could definitely make an argument that the face and the head don't look that great. However, besides that, this set is looking out to be a banger, and despite only getting these 3 sets from this show so far, I think collectively they are very solid, again with the U-Wing being the only questionable one. Now making our way way into the top 3, I have another show that's kind of arguably down there at the bottom with Kenobi, and despite it not being the greatest Star Wars series, the sets that came from it are surprisingly very high quality and very consistently good, and that is Ahsoka. So far, we've only gotten 5 sets from this show, and almost all of them are very, very good. You have the Ghost in Phantom 2, which was the best set that came out in 2023, and I'd honestly argue that it's one of the best play sets of all time. You have the New Republic E-Wing versus Shin Hati Starfighter, which I'd consider to be one of, if not the best versus set of all time. And then you had the new buildable chopper that's coming out in just a few weeks, and it looks absolutely amazing. Really, the only dud set in this lineup is Duel on Peridia, and that's mainly just because it's overpriced and the build just isn't super appealing. It's got a solid minifigure lineup, especially that Thrawn minifigure, but other than that, it really didn't have much going for it. So again, that's really the only dud. You could also argue that the T6 Jedi shuttle is also a dud, but really the only problem with it is the underside not having any detail. The rest of the ship looks really good, so I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. So again, out of these 5 sets, they're just surprisingly consistently good. Again, you have the 2 weaker sets, being the Duel on Peridia and the T6 Jedi shuttle, if you want to consider that a weaker set, but the other 3 are pretty much perfect. Anyways though, not making our way to the number 1 and number 2 spots, I'm pretty sure most of you guys know which 2 shows are left, and this was very hard for me to decide. I was constantly switching these shows back and forth for the 1 and 2 spot, but at the number 2 spot, I actually have The Mandalorian. We have gotten a total of 21 separate sets from this show, and as you guys know, there's been some absolute heavy hitters. Just to name a few, the Imperial Armored Marauder from 2021, the Imperial Light Cruiser, the Mandalorian Fang Fighter versus TIE Interceptor, the Ambush on Mandalore Battle Pack, and then of course the UCS Razor Crest, making this the only show on this list that has a UCS set. And that's just naming a few. There's still a bunch of other great sets that came from this show. However, the reason I didn't put it at the number 1 spot is because out of the 21 sets released from this show, there's definitely a bit of fluff in there. And when I mean fluff, I just mean some sets that are kind of mid and not so good, like Trouble on Tatooine from 2021, the Grogu Escape set from last year, and even a set like the 2021 Slave 1. As you guys know, I've never really liked that set too much. I think it's way too downscaled and just looks kind of ugly and goofy. And then not to mention the 4 Plus set that came from this show. So again, this show has had a lot of sets over the years, and a lot of them are heavy hitters, but with a huge quantity of sets from one specific show or movie, there's gonna be some duds in there. And that's why I kept it at the number 2 spot, because there's a lot of hits, but there's also a few misses. So then that means at the number 1 spot, the Star Wars series with the best LEGO set lineup in my opinion is Star Wars Rebels. Like The Mandalorian, this show also has 21 sets, and the reason I put it at the number 1 spot is just because the lineup is more consistent. And of course, as you guys know, there are some amazing sets that came from this show, like Captain Rex's AT-TE, the Rebel Combat Frigate, Vader's TIE Advance versus the A-Wing, the AT-DP, the Imperial Assault Carrier, and even the Wookiee Gunship, just to name a few. I mean, really, in my opinion, the only 2 sets that are kind of a miss from this show are the original Phantom from 2014 and the original Ghost from 2014. All of the other sets are surprisingly very consistent, with amazing vehicles, amazing builds, and amazing minifigures. And also, not to mention, well, this is kind of just a subjective thing, but I favor actual Imperial or original trilogy era sets over other eras. So in my head, sets that are true Imperial era sets are going to be cooler than sets like the Imperial Light Cruiser, which is kind of post-Imperial era. But again, that's more of a subjective thing. Overall, the sets from Rebels are just more consistent in my opinion, and that's why I put it at the number 1 spot over Mandalorian. Anyways guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think about my list down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you see them on the screen right now.